Magic, a treatise on esoteric ethics by Manly P. Hall. Brought to you by Masonic Audiobook Library. Preface. As Paracelsus noted centuries ago, the invisible realms of nature are governed by immutable laws, which cannot be violated with impunity. In recent years, researchers in many fields have been exploring the hidden side of life and nature. However, few of them have given serious consideration to the moral and ethical responsibilities associated with their labors. The tendency has been to assume that the transcendental arts, like the resources of the physical world, can be exploited without regard for consequences. As in the case of the sorcerers of long ago, the principal objective is the binding of invisible energies for the advancement of personal ambitions. Many innocent persons have become involved in magical practices and disciplines which are detrimental to character and dangerous to physical health. The abuse of powers and forces, as yet but partly understood, must result in both psychical and psychological tragedy. In this little essay, I have attempted to present in concise form a code of rules which, if faithfully followed, will protect both the individual and society. We are fully aware that the materialistic approach on any level of esoteric knowledge is contrary to the universal plan. We must all accept the burdens that come from the exploration of natural mysteries and dedicate our findings to the glory of God and the well-being of all humanity. Part 1. Children of the false darkness. One for ages man has labored under a misunderstanding. He has called the perversion of occult power black magic. This is an improper use of the word black, for black does not mean evil. Black is the basic color of all things. It is the source of all being and represents the body of the absolute intelligence. All consciousness and light are born out of the chaotic blackness, and cosmic night, with its dark prelayer, is the father-mother of creation. Black darkness must forever shroud the workings of the infinite, and no matter how much light there is in the human soul, it is forever surrounded with the dark, seething substances of chaos. All manifestation is a concretion of dark and unmeasured possibility. The children of the dark birth who labor in the blackness of this substance, molding it into myriads of unseen and unmeasured forms, are not evil. They are the sons of Saturn, Satan, the Black Father, who, like the very darkness of chaos itself, must in time swallow all of his creations, and, in so doing, bring them back to life again from the death that men call creation. We are all born out of this dark abyss, and have no right to call it evil. It is the parent of gods and men, forever wrapped in the unexplorable robes of its own mystery. Out of this blackness, nature's unfathomed treasure house, man must exhume the stone of his own soul in the same way that the miner removes the diamond from its sheath of black carbon. The dark lords of Saturn are the builders of the first dawn, the morning of blackness, and from the friction of their strivings were born the first flaming sparks of dawning consciousness. They were the mind-born and other Brahmins of our chain of globes, being delivered from the brain and mouth of Brahma. Their throne is made up of solid substance and the chemicals of solid matter. They are the satanic outpourings, the spirits of cold darkness. In the diagram that follows are shown the four births which have come out of the body of Brahm Bium, the unknown blackness, the X of being. There is a false darkness and a true darkness. The true darkness is the womb of light. The false darkness, the perversion of the light that pours out of the true darkness. Natural darkness is the basic principle of things, while the false darkness is the result of debasing the power of the angels of Satan. The devil, the archetype of misuse, is not a son of Saturn, but a son of man, and the false darkness of earth. Man is the incarnation of the germ of mental intelligence, and black magic is possible only to intelligent beings. Absolute spirit, minus all the sheets of vehicles, unformed and uncompounded, is true darkness, the dimensionless basis of all that is, has been, or ever shall be, and the ultimate veil behind which all creation must retire. Absolute crystallization is the false darkness and is the colorless vibration at the lower end of the spectrum, opposing the colorless vibration at the upper end of the spectrum. Both ends ultimately are swallowed up in darkness, one in the darkness of spirit and the other in the darkness of matter. Life lives in darkness and dies in light. Form lives in light and dies in darkness, but in dying really comes to life, for life as we know it is pure death. Natural darkness is unawakened possibility. False darkness is perverted opportunity, the philosophy of opportunity. If it were not for opportunity in its various forms, there would be no perversion of power. There is an old saying, opportunity makes the thief. Opportunity is the eternal temptation. Without temptation, there could be no sinners. Therefore, when the higher powers brought man opportunity, they also brought him sin and death. The one who brought him light brought him also the false darkness. Light and shadow are inseparable. The shadow of light is the false darkness, for the creation of the first automatically brings the second. To be free from temptation, man must be free from reason. To be free from darkness, he must renounce light. Thus, he becomes a renouncer of opposites, for in accepting one opposite, he must need to accept the other. Temptation is the price that the human race pays for intelligence. Therefore, the serpent of wisdom is also the eternal tempter. When man learns with his growing intelligence of the powers of nature, and most of all, of the power that he himself possesses, there comes with that increasing knowledge ever greater responsibility. If man today knew of the God powers that lie dormant within him, he would be the most dangerous creature in the universe, both to himself and to the plan of things. The soul must grow with the knowledge that it gains. Otherwise, the organisms will ultimately destroy each other. Action and reaction must build strength of character so that the will is always strong enough to curb the desires. When this is not the case, and desire runs rampant, then, regardless of the position of the organism in the path of unfoldment, a black magician is created. Man has no free will at the present time but merely the power of choice over a certain area of incident brought by his ever-growing consciousness within the scope of his comprehension. These incidents have been differentiated by his evolving organisms from the dark premium hyle, or the true blackness. The greater his growth, the larger the area of his choices, and the greater his independence. Why has been the eternal question in nature, and the letter Y is its phonetic equivalent, for it forms the sling that hurls the white stone at the forehead of Goliath. The latter represents the false darkness, while the stone represents true illumination. In Egypt, the point where the arms of the Y converge was called the forking of the ways. The candidate for spiritual things always stands at the point where the three arms of the Y come together, carrying in his hand the scales of discrimination. As long as he measures blindfolded, his weight will be just. But woe unto him if he removes the blindfold, for the two eyes themselves give birth to good and evil. The diagram accompanying this paragraph opposite shows the Y of choice passing upward through the four creations of Brahma. The line passing through the circle shows the path of evolution through those kingdoms of nature where there is no conscious reason, therefore, no revolt against the laws of God. The small ring where the three lines meet shows the present position of the human ego, dwelling in the mind of Brahma. From it, the path branches. Man must now choose his own way instead of depending upon nature. He has, in spirit and in truth, reached the point where the scales of Libra have been inserted by cutting the sign of Scorpio-Virgo into, and thus dividing the way of unfoldment. During the first half of this fourth globe, the Great Ones came to man to strengthen him for his choice, and to give him basic instructions through which he should learn to redeem his own soul. We know these demigods now only as mythological characters, but they were the ones who were bored with the human mind while it was in the making, and planted there in the seeds of discrimination, which is the ultimate redeemer of human reason. Those who follow the right-hand path enter into one of the 7 rays which lead to immortality. The consciousness unwinds itself from matter in a spiral motion, and functions in ever finer substances until it completely disentangles itself from form and consciously attains the resurrection. In so doing, it gains the powers to mold matter into whatever forms are necessary for its labors. It crosses over into the world of spirit and enters what man can know only as darkness. Light is a form of a nation, and when we enter the divine presence, we enter the omnipotent darkness. This is the living shade over which we have perfect power, and which contains within itself all things in unawakened potentiality. We have allied ourselves with the dark cause, the womb of light, and have become molders of the cosmic scheme. Path number 2. This represents the line pass not, the non-existing spiritual equator dividing the poles, and is that ridge which divides the black and the white paths, like that mystic line which separates day from night. In this, the spirit ignores opportunity, rejects reason, and in this way comes under the law and mystery of the mechanics of opportunity. All action immediately sets into motion the law of reaction, which the ancients have called the law of karma, the factor employed by nature for the creation of the soul. The rejecting or ignoring of opportunity, falling under the law of indifference and inertia, fails to result in a reaction. This, in turn, results in the starving of the soul. Those who have ignored experience are called the soulless creations, and are in the same position as those kingdoms which, like the angels, have not been given individual intelligence. The law of reaction immediately starts incorporating into the organisms the fruitage of the outboard endeavor, slowly transmuting the entire chain of vehicles into intelligent symbols or images of the path chosen by the consciousness. As one pole or the other slowly grows within the being, the atoms of the opposing substances are slowly crowded or forced out or sloughed off for lack of cohesion. The battle of these opposing qualities in the various organisms of life forms the groundwork for the great Indian battle of Kurukshetra, or the Armageddon of Christian theology. Through this subtle process, the student who lives the white path slowly starves out, or else transmutes the powers of the black ray within himself. That is, if he is able to stand the conflict which must first take place in his bodies. On the other hand, the student who takes the black path slowly eliminates or destroys all of the finer principles within, until he becomes a very demon incarnate. Once having destroyed conscience, he does evil for the joy of it. Motive. Motive is the key to the problem of magic. Even the greatest of white magicians can become a degenerate in an instant if his motive becomes unworthy. The white magician serves humanity. The black magician seeks to serve himself. The black magic of the past, the darkness that sank Atlantis when man made slaves of the demons of the elements and chained them to do his bidding, still survives to this day. The black magic of the Middle Ages, with its witchcraft and orgies, is not dead. Only its form has changed. Like all other forms in nature, it has incarnated again in our age with all its power and fury. It is gnawing, as in the days of old, at the very heart of our civilization, and if left unredeemed, will tear down and destroy our race. Under the garb of right, it masquerades as the messenger of the Most High. Yet, under its oral promises forever lurks the menace of the goat of Mendes. In its false shadows hide the furies of hell and the vampires of the astral plane. As the black magician has no legitimate means of securing his power, not having passed through the school of reclamation, he wanders the earth like the werewolves of old, vampirizing humanity to secure the vitality which he must have to continue his operations. All who are not consciously fortified in the path of right are possible victims of these monsters of iniquity. All who are not consciously on the white path and firmly established in the way of sincerity and truth are in eternal danger of these harpies who float like solar specters on the tide of evolution. They have the powers of invoking the demons who serve them, while the impartial natural law is misused hourly that they may perpetuate themselves. The power of light in their hands becomes but a scepter of death, for many hands wield spiritual powers whose hearts are dead, whose minds are rotting with iniquity, and whose souls have long since bid them goodbye. They are lost beyond recall to this life wave, for they have killed out even the germ of good within themselves. They battle on, however, clinging desperately to life at any price, realizing only too well that eternity holds nothing for them. May the mercy of God rest upon them. Spirit is matter inverted, and Mata is spirit inverted. The beast is God defiled. End of Part 1. Remember to subscribe to Masonic Audiobook Library. Leave a comment and share the link to your friends and family. Part 2.